Hello guys and welcome to my new video. Today I'm going to be doing another trinket video for basically general healers. Probably a bit more biased towards Resto Druids, but I think this applies for every healer in World of Warcraft out there. If you actually see anyone using Luria's Mirror, please tell them that the trinket is actually really bad. And ask them to use something else, because it is one of the biggest mistakes you can do where you place a high item level over something lower that might be much better. This is especially true for trinkets, so I wanted to make a little video about this and how good the stat sticks might be. So for those who don't know, stat sticks are basically just trinkets to give you base stats, so intellect and then mastery, haste, crit, or versatility. Because for Resto Druids every stat is really good, it is much easier for Resto Druids to get a good stat sticks versus other healing classes which might be a bit more oriented towards a specific secondary stat. For Resto Druids have it easy because everything's pretty much good. So I wanted to just cover why proc trinkets are not good compared to stat sticks. Proc trinkets were never good in World of Warcraft for healers. They became really good right now because there is just no good secondary stat trinkets, excuse me. So it's actually really quite sad to see that proc trinkets being on one of the best things like map, Chrono Shard. Proc trinkets were never good because for healers it is not about 100% uptime or a very good uptime of a buff, because for a lot of times a healer might not be healing. They might not be, the proc can be completely and utterly wasted, giving you zero healing. You can maybe DPS and give a little additional DPS to the team, but if you don't need that, it's absolutely wasted. So the difference is proc trinket can be very good based on your look, can be very bad based on your look again, while a stat stick giving you base stats is always going to give you what it says on the trinket. So it's always better to go with stability over look, I feel, and I think a lot of people will agree with this. So stat sticks are way better than anything like map or Chrono Shard or things like that, Flask from Court of Stars. The problem is that a lot of druids see that a lot of people are using map, Celestial Map from Star Augur, because a lot of top passing druids are using it as well, because it is much easier to get a higher item level of map than a higher item level of a stat stick. So the main thing, the way you can get a stat stick, if you don't have that good of a trinkets, go to Broken Shorts, go to the guy who, one of the sellers who sells relinquished trinkets. So you gotta farm 5,000 nether shards, either go invasions or either go underneath the Sentinix ship and just farm mobs. I know it is absolutely so boring and it's just so painful that that's in the game, but you gotta do it, because with that 5,000 nether shards you will be able to buy a trinket that's going to give you a minimum item level of 880. And basically the way it works, it's going to randomly select any trinket in the game available. If you're a god tier lucky, you're gonna get an Arcanocrystal Shard. 880 Arcanocrystal Shard is beyond good. It is actually one of the best trinkets you can get. It can actually overcome the legendary trinket for most of the classes as well. So Arcanocrystal is one of the best things you can get. And then maybe if you're decently lucky, you can get something like a stat stick, a nice int haste, int mastery, int crit trinket. And doing some of the spreadsheets and things like that, I found out that at least for Resto Druids, and I'm sure it's for the classes as well, that a stat stick can be up to 5 to 10 item levels better than a proc trinket. So if you have an 880 stat stick that gives you like one of your best stats, or maybe you're low on some stat and you really need that crit, or you really need that haste, a trinket with int and haste is an 880 trinket with int and haste is going to be better than, let's say, an 890 Chrono Shard or 890 map. In most cases it can be actually even higher depending on boss fights. So for boss fights where there is no constant damage, things like Botanist, Star Augur and things like that, proc trinkets are really bad, because you will probably utilize them in one phase only where there's constant damage coming. For fights like Scorpiron and Tychondrius, in trinkets are not that bad. Proc trinkets are not going to be that bad because you're probably going to be healing all the time. So this value actually can interchange if you really want to min and max. You can actually use those proc trinkets. If you have a higher item level proc trinket, you can use for things like Scrap Iron at the Conjures, but overall, 90% of the time, a stat stick, even lower item level. If you got a higher item level, absolutely use a stat stick, and you should go for that without even thinking about. Don't even think about things like Glorious Mirror. Don't look at the item level. It is absolutely terrible, and if you use it, you gotta delete the trinket. You gotta delete it now. You don't even, doesn't matter. It's also interesting to notice that if you are a high item level druid or any kind of healer in the game, int stacking, you might reach a point in int stacking that your int is very high and your secondary stats are going to be a lot better. I've actually reached that point where all my secondary stats are almost better than intellect. So things like Arcanocrystal is the best thing right now, and map is actually not that bad considering it gives you all different kind of stats. So it's actually not bad at all, because most of the stats it'll give you are going to be above int for me. So if you really want to know how much better your stat stick is, you gotta use those Tortys spreadsheets and things like that, and leaves Resto Druid stat weights to really know. But general idea is that if you are missing a lot of stats, or if you're missing some particular stat, a stat stick is always going to be better than a proc trinket. It depends how good it's going to be better. 5 to 10 item levels. It depends on your gear, depends on your items and things like that. But I hope that this video might help you a little about proc trinkets and stat sticks. General idea: get them stat sticks, go nether shard farming, get those 5k. I know it's boring, but you gotta do it. And what you don't know, Arcanocrystal might drop for you. He hasn't dropped for me yet, but good luck with that farm. And thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you next time, guys.